The truth is out there.
It is one of the world's greatest mysteries, Scotland's legendary Loch Ness Monster. So does the lake creature actually exist? Well, if you ask one man, he'll tell you it is in fact no myth.
Every day it's flaunted in front of your face.
Hundreds of people in the valley say they are hearing voices in their heads.
You just choose to ignore it.
Belief can be a powerful force. No one knows that better than the people who are sure they've seen Bigfoot.
Real accounts.
He says he knows who's playing mind games.
Rogue government officials that are sponsoring this, also corrupt business officials, and private citizens.
From real people.
Hundreds of people turned out tonight for the unveiling of a very controversial statue.
Yeah, it really is. The Satanic Temple of Detroit revealed the one-ton bronze statue.
It's time for you to take a swim.
I'm just excited to see my Lord and Savior Baphomet represented in such glorious Italian stone. I do hope his eyes gaze upon me and that my allegiance is recognized.
In the dark waters.
The Dark Waters channel is for entertainment purposes only. Although information in these stories can be traced back to relevant and true sources, Dark Waters strongly discourages its viewers, listeners, and subscribers from visiting the site of incidents and encounters discussed or revealed on the show. In other words, we will not be held responsible if you are attacked by a Dogman, molested by a Bigfoot, bitten by vampires, chased by chupacabras, abducted by aliens, accosted by the Men in Black, investigated or arrested by the local law enforcement, CIA, FBI, NSA, EPA, BLM, or another alphabet group, whether on U.S. soil or abroad. Thank you for tuning in, and enjoy the show.
America is home to a centuries-old legend. A hominid creature, known by many names: Sasquatch, Yeti, the Woodsman, and the most popular name of all, Bigfoot. Tonight, on the Dark Waters channel, we travel into the world of Bigfoot and attempt to pull off a historic collaboration where Bigfoot truth seekers combine forces to share stories and encounters from around the world. Tonight, we proudly present the Bigfoot Bonanza.
Six years ago, my best friend and I decided we wanted to produce a documentary film about Bigfoot in Kentucky. Dash and I had been considering this for a while. So when we finally decided to venture out into the woods, we agreed on one thing: to go well armed. Our mission was simple: to film some footage in the woods of Kentucky, seeking out Bigfoot. Finding this creature was truly not necessary, nor was it an integral part of the process. We had already lined up several local eyewitnesses, a professor in the study of cryptozoology, and a few authors to give their expert opinions on the subject. This trip was simply to get some good overnight footage of us camping in the woods, also to capture us overreacting to the sounds of the night. Our first witness we met was a 65-year-old single female who, while driving home one night, witnessed the creature crossing the road and almost hitting her car. She claimed that the creature was 8 feet tall and was able to cross the 26-foot wide roadway in 3 quick steps. Not very far from where she had her encounter, a gentleman was exiting the back door to his property, and he saw a similar creature, 8 to 9 feet tall, 600 pounds, jet black hair, and bulging muscles walking across the back of his property. This creature looked in his direction, grunted, then disappeared into the wood line. We asked to be granted access to his property. That way we can camp where we knew there was activity. There was a hollow towards the back end of his property where he said he would hear the sounds of screams at night. In my mind, this was the perfect place for us to set up camp. Now, DW, I can't stress enough that this project was not very sophisticated. We had no thermal cameras, no trail cameras, not even a voice recorder. We only went on with 2 rifles, 2 cameras, and a tripod. As night fell, we set up camp and started a fire. We arranged our tents side by side, with one camera on a tripod opposite from us facing the tents, and the other handheld camera with us to document our conversations. Sitting by the light of the fire, we discussed the possibilities of this small documentary earning us a hefty sum of money on YouTube. We discussed our marital problems, our children. It was just two friends hanging out in the woods talking. As the night progressed, there were a few sounds that startled us, but nothing happened that gave us any sign of the presence of Bigfoot. At least not until we separated and headed into our tents to bed down for the night. Laying there in my tent, the sounds of the woods went silent, almost as if someone had pressed the mute button on a movie. I never knew how intense silence could be until that night. Then from all directions, I could hear heavy footfalls moving in fast, not at a running pace, but almost as if someone was walking briskly towards us in the woods. I whispered to Dash, "Did you hear that?" And he replied yes, accompanied with this shaky, jittery tone in his voice. But not only let me know that he heard the same thing I heard, but he was scared to death. The sounds coming from the north, which was behind our tents, east and west, simultaneously stopped. However, the footfalls coming from the south continued, only slower. I yelled out, "Hey, whoever's out there, identify yourself. We're armed and I'm gonna come out shooting." With those words, all movement stopped. As I grabbed my rifle and positioned myself on my knees to exit the tent, we both heard a long, heavy, breathy groan. Unzipping my tent, immediately I saw a set of eyes the size of golf balls in the tree line just beyond the position of our camera. Then they blinked and motioned left to right, as if they were looking at something in the immediate area. Scared, I fired my rifle straight up through my tent and yelled, "Get the hell out of here." That's when there was this humongous roar that came from right behind our tents. The noise was deafening. I could feel the vibrations through my body as my muscles started to tense and my body shivered. Then, even faster than these creatures moved in, they retreated, moving in the same directions they came. The sounds of tree limbs breaking and tree branches snapping was coming from all directions. And then, there was nothing but this awkward silence. 10 minutes later, the sounds of the woods came back on again. We packed up our shit and left headed back towards the landowner's house. When we arrived, it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and he was sitting on his back porch drinking coffee. He said, "I figured you boys would be headed back up this way after all that noise I heard down there. Did you find what you were looking for?" After that night, we completely abandoned the idea of doing a Bigfoot documentary. Things had gotten entirely too real for us. And what we experienced, I wish upon no human being. DW. Our mutual friend gave me approval to share these Bigfoot encounters with you. He says that not only do you do a good job, but you can be trusted to keep everything on the side of entertainment. Our encounter with 2 male Sasquatches happened on an extraction mission. 2 pilots had crashed in South America, and it was our job to recover both. We were dropped at the landing zone via helicopter and entered the woods immediately. Terrain-wise, it was light forest and provided good lines of sight. During our briefing, we were told that there would be hostile activity in the area, so our 6-man team moved quietly as possible. The first 2 clicks were quick, and we made good time. However, soon our point man gave us the hand signal to hold in place. Now looking back on it, the woods had gone completely silent, which is a sign that there's some form of contact in the area. But at the moment, I wasn't sure, and neither was anyone else on the team. Seconds later, he gave the signal for us to proceed forward. And as we moved, we began to hear this knocking sound. The sounds were coming from both east and west of our location. However, there was nothing in our line of sight. Now, when you're in a situation like this, you fall back on your training. So we prepared to engage an enemy coming at us from both sides. We held our positions for over 10 minutes, but saw and heard nothing else. So again, we moved forward. The next 3 clicks were the exact same way. As we moved through this area, it was completely silent, and then the knocking started escalating. These sounds were coming from all directions at this point in time. North, south, east, and west. This whole thing was confusing. Enemies don't give away their location under any circumstances. Either they retreat or they attack. So by now we would have seen some sign of an enemy combatant. We moved from hand signals to verbal communication because clearly someone or something knew we were in the area. And when we finally made it to the crash site, our first objective was to retrieve any sensitive data. So we set a perimeter and began to search the area. To the north of the crash site, the woods were far more dense and dark. And as I stood there, I couldn't help but feeling like someone was over there looking back at me. Several of the other members in my team also verbalized this feeling of something being off and that we needed to get moving. By the time we moved to phase 2 of our search, which was seeking out signs of survivors, we all had already noticed what looked like drag marks where bodies had been pulled from the wreckage. These marks went on 15 feet and then stopped and were flanked by large footprints. These prints tracked north into the more dense wooded area. Not sure what could lead these tracks, our commanding officer decided we should proceed with extreme caution, and his instincts would turn out to be totally correct. The events that happened next were not only terrifying, but made me a believer in Sasquatch. Entering into this wood line was like entering into another world. The terrain began to slope downward, leading into this massive valley. After an hour, we found ourselves at the base of this valley. The sunlight struggled to break through the trees, creating these shadows and giving this area this 100% creep factor. I remember thinking to myself, very few humans have ever set foot in a place like this. It just felt like somewhere we were not supposed to be. By now, we had no more tracks to follow. We had gone way beyond the crash zone, and if there was a survivor, he wouldn't have moved into this type of territory. Coming to the conclusion that we were not about to find these two pilots, the CO signaled for us to head back uphill. And as we moved upwards, our point shouted, "Contact left." Up ahead on our left, I saw something I thought was not possible. Jumping down from a perched position within the top of 2 trees was this huge, massive thing. When it hit the ground, it let out this roar like nothing I've ever heard, and began pushing trees over in our direction. This creature was huge, 10 feet tall, and covered with hair. I believe we all were in complete shock when we first saw it, because number 1, nobody opened fire, and number 2, everybody's eyes were wide open. Then a second one let out a roar from behind us, and that's when his shit hit the fan. Engage! I took up position with the 3 other team members and engaged the creature uphill. This thing was fast. I mean very fast. And it moved quick on 2 legs. The 2 team members close to the base of the hill engaged the second creature while dodging a tree that had pushed down on him. Then it retreated off to the east, and for a second, things went quiet. So we began a tactical retreat, leapfrogging uphill, back towards the wreckage site. As we moved up this hill, we could hear what sounded like thunder coming from the valley below. It sounded like 100 of these things were rushing through the valley at us all at the same time. It took every bit of my mental strength not to freak the fuck out. When we arrived at the top of the hill, my CEO called for an extraction 2 clicks to the southwest. And when we finally reached a designated landing zone, I asked him, "What in the hell was that?" And he said, "Son, those are the things of nightmares."
Everything gonna be all right this morning. Oh, yeah.
Dog Waters, after talking to you, I realize why your channel is so good. It's amazing how you have the ability to make someone feel like they've known you all their lives with one conversation. Well, as I told you over the phone, before I moved north, I lived in a small town that was extremely poor. In fact, it used to be a mining town. That was before old Bubba Clinton signed the NAFTA trade deal, shipping jobs and production overseas. The entire area was decimated and jobless. Things got so bad that people began to rip up the old railroad tracks and sell the metal for scrap in order to put food on the table. Well, one of the advantages of people selling off the tracks was that it created these gravel roadways deep into the woods. Many of these roadways led deep into areas where I don't think any human beings had been since the lines were constructed. It was on one of these roadways where I had my encounter with something. I'm not sure if it was Bigfoot or Dogman, but it was the most frightening thing I've ever experienced. I was bored and decided to venture out and spend the night in the woods. So I phoned a friend and had him drive me down one of these old railroad lines, dropping me off near an abandoned railroad tunnel. I figured this was a good place to set up camp for the night, and if there was any rain, I could just head inside the tunnel and seek shelter. The day went pretty fast, and there were very few people in this area. I was out about 10 miles deep into the woods. The railroad tunnel was at the base of a steep hill. Standing on the abandoned tracks, to the left was a deep drop-off that went down about 13 feet. Then a sheer rock wall that rose up about 25 feet. To the right, where I made camp, was all woods, with a small access road that led up the side of the steep hill. This road went over the hill, then forked into two other roads. One road led to a house that was about a mile away and set in the middle of a pasture. The other road curved and went further into the woods. As the day passed, I searched around for firewood. You see, the majority of the trees in the area were full of sap, making them unsuitable for burning a fire. So I was left with taking the small weeds and brush that grew along the side of the tracks that had the drop-off. As night began to fall, I had gathered more than enough fire material, so I started trying to set a fire. 20 minutes passed. Still, I had no fire going. Just tons of smoke filling my lungs and choking me. And there's one thing I know how to do, is burn shit up. And this was not going my way. So I grabbed some of the sap-filled wood and lit it with my lighter. Then tossed the dry brush on top of it and took a few steps back. Finally, I had a fire, but it popped and crackled like crazy. Thinking to myself, this was the best you're gonna get. I set on my cooler and reached for a bottle of whiskey. Just as I motioned to open the bottle, I heard a tree limb break. It came from uphill on the left side of the railroad tracks. It was followed by another and another. Soon, I could hear footsteps and limbs breaking coming down that hill. It sounded like 10 to 12 very large people walking in the woods above me. Thinking it was bears, I emptied my cooler, throwing my hot dogs, marshmallows, buns, everything I could as far up that side of the hill as possible. I didn't want to give these bears any reason to move in on me. Better they eat the crap up there than here by me. Then all the movement went silent. But across the tracks, I could hear something pacing and breathing. It was on a ledge about 20 feet above me. This didn't sound like no bear. Bears don't walk like humans. At this point, I'm starting to freak out. I felt like I was being watched from all angles. Then it happened. The sound of tree limbs breaking directly behind me in the woods, and further down the tracks where I came into the area. Okay, I'm thinking to myself, I'm surrounded by something, and this shit is not good. All I could think to do was to head into this abandoned tunnel to get away. To make things worse, all I had was a 3-inch butterfly knife to defend myself. Now out of options, I moved into the tunnel on with that knife and my big lighter. Imagine this. Turn off all the lights in your house. Then cover all the windows and doors with blankets, so there's not a drop of light entering at all. Multiply that darkness by 2, and you can get an idea of how dark it was inside of this tunnel. Now keep in mind, I'm walking on gravel, so every footstep echoes, causing me to pause in fear that something is ahead of me or right behind me. This situation was terrifying. Walking with my hand along the side of the walls, there were these gaps every 10 to 15 feet. I guess they were put there to allow someone space to slide into as a train passed through the tunnel. Each time I passed these, I had that feeling that something was right there waiting to grab me. Halfway down the tunnel, the lighter started to overheat and begin to burn my finger, forcing me to move the rest of the way down the tunnel in complete darkness. DW. Listen, my nerves were shot, and I ain't never been this scared in my life. Walking through that tunnel, all I could hear was my footsteps sliding and grinding into the gravel. Yet and still, I had this feeling that something was there, right behind me, ready to grab me. I could hear the sound of the crickets as I approached the other end of the tunnel. And just as I started to relax, thinking I was safe, gravel rocks flew up from behind me, hitting me in the back of the legs, as if someone had just kicked them. Man, I had enough. I took off running towards the sounds at the end of the tunnel. When I exited, I took a sharp right, slightly uphill, and got on the access road, then sprinted full speed to the front gate of that house I had saw earlier that day. Scared, but keeping my wits about myself, I figured running onto a person's property at night was not the best idea. They might shoot first and ask questions later. So I moved just to the left of the gate, following the fence line and positioning myself in a good spot where I could make a beeline for the front door of the house. Then I sat there at the base of a tree. For the next 6 hours, I sat there scared out of my mind. And as the sun came up, I heard the most god-awful scream, accompanied by what sounded like a full-grown tree breaking in half. Whatever that thing was that was following me last night must have been seriously pissed. With the sun now up, I headed back towards the tunnel. That's when I saw a tree branch about the size of my thigh. You know how in karate class they give you those fake-ass boards to break in half? And when you chop it, there's a clean break with no shredded edges? That is what this tree limb looked like. Something had just Mr. Miyagi the fuck out of this tree limb. Looking up the hill, on both sides were various smaller broken tree limbs and trees pushed over. I don't know for sure what it was, if it was Bigfoot or Dogman, because I never saw it. But based on everything that I know, that had to be Bigfoot. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Dark Waters, checking in with you guys with some inside baseball. First of all, let's talk about some of the things going on. I have to say to you guys, I want to thank you very much for all your participation, your support, and how you have continued to support me. As you guys notice, I've been away for about 2 weeks, maybe going on 3 weeks. And that's because I've been putting some pieces of a puzzle in place that need to be there. The last time we spoke, I talked about some of the attacks that were going on and how I was going to handle them. Well, I didn't tell you guys everything, but I just told you some of the things in the ways I was going to handle it. To be totally honest with you guys, over the past 2 weeks, what I've done is I kind of sat down and evaluated what I was doing with the Dark Waters channel. From one standpoint, I'm a person that sets goals and sets marks as to what they want to do, and I set some goals and I hit the goals, and then I went beyond those goals, or I went beyond my mark. And when you go beyond your mark, you have to go through another planning phase, because you plan to get to a certain point, like you plan to run a 5-mile marathon, but you run past the finish line and you run 10 miles. Well, you only brought enough water to get you 5 miles. So now you're running a 10-mile marathon, but you don't have the resources you need in order to get you where you need to go and to be successful. So I had to take a break, pull back, reorganize, restructure to prepare myself for this next phase, and also to prepare some defenses and some great offense, which I'm excited about that. To move forward. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys for your patience, your love, and your understanding, and I really appreciate each and every one of you. You guys, you just don't know how much you mean to me, And those of you who check in, who call, and who are like, hey, Dog Waters, we haven't heard from you in a while. We're making sure you're still alive, blah, blah. You know, don't ever take anything I say or my silence to be like any form of rejection. I really appreciate it when you guys check in on me and want to know what's going on. That's why I call it the Dog Waters family. It's not like the Dog Waters channel. It's not like, ooh, this is all about me. This is about us. And those of you who've spoken to me, you know that this is not just about me. You know, and I've spoken to enough people at this point in time, and you know and you realize that this is not about me. With that being said, oh man, there's so much going on. I don't know where to start, but let's talk about what Inside Baseball is going to be moving forward. So you guys want more content, and I agree. I think I should give you guys a hell of a lot more content because I'm accumulating so much more content, and then I'm putting together these offensive strategies that will give us a lot more content. So from now on, it's going to be very important that you listen to Inside Baseball because I'm going to talk for a little while, and then I'm going to start telling stories kind of live like I do on the radio. That's going to start now in a few seconds, but you know, there's two ways that I do the stories. One way is I actually sit down and hold the conversations with people, take all the key points, graph those key points into a story, then I record the story and add the sounds. The other way that I do storytelling is similar to what I did on Coast to Coast, what I do on Darkness Radio, Lon Strickland, you know, Paranormal Reality, those various interviews where I just sit there and tell a story in its truest, rawest form from an entertainment standpoint, which there's not very many YouTube horror narrators who have the ability to do that. With that being said, there's been a little speculation as to, you know, the comparisons made between me and the subscribers, I mean the narrators who have millions of subscribers, and because they have millions of subscribers, that makes them a better narrator than me, and back and forth. And my thing is, hey, if you can't go live with it, then you can't go live with it. You know, if you can't do it unedited, unscripted, and just go sit there and do it, then you're not you're a narrator. I'm a step beyond that. I narrate and I tell the story. So I will from now on be dropping in stories that I have that, to be honest with you, I just don't have the time to completely formulate like the ones you just heard. But it'll be the story told by me, and I will formulate music and sound to it, but it may have some errors. It's just me talking and me telling you the stories. I think that will give you guys another 2 or 3 stories per episode. And also what it will do is it'll allow me to kind of freestyle and drop some stuff that's not so scripted and not so rigid, because I know the stuff sounds good, but it still is rigid because it takes a lot of energy to do it. I'm not going to stop doing it, but it just allows me to get you guys some more content. And I believe that I have the ability to do both in a great manner. With that being said, one of the stories that there's a lot going on with Bigfoot Bonanza. I know it went quiet, but what I started doing was I started getting these reports in, and then I had to build these relationships with people. One of the guys is so interesting. At first I thought he was BSing me, and he said that he's a cryptid hunter, right? And I was like, well, what do you mean by a cryptid hunter? He's like, well, I travel the world and I research and find cryptids and try and catch them. And I'm like, whatever, you know. He's like, I'm independently wealthy. This is what I do. I inherited a lot of money. I like your show, and I want to share some of my stories with you. This guy's crap, and I'm not calling it crap like he's lying, but this guy's stuff is off the chain. When I say it's off the chain, oh my God, this is off the chain. That's going to be in the next episode of Bigfoot Bonanza, because I want to recreate that the right way, because it's off the chain. Ruby, Alaska, the Mezakine River, whichever it is. It's a river that goes up from off of Ruby, Alaska. The Bigfoot territory there. You go upriver, get off the boat, and go off into the woods. At the base of the mountains is Bigfoot territory. It's insane, the stuff that he's told me. The stuff about being in Russia, insane. The stuff about Africa and the lion men with heads of lions, insane, like insane stuff. And I have very few ways of verifying everything, because I've been trying to go about verifying it. But this guy just doesn't strike me as a liar. But so I'm going to take it easy, take it slow, have multiple conversations with him, and try and pull out as much truth as I can, and try and catch him in any lies. But he just doesn't strike me as the type of person that lies. He has no reason to. I verified that he definitely is independently wealthy, and why would a rich guy who rides around on his own jet and does crazy stuff have a reason to lie? It just makes no sense. So, with that being said, there is a couple of stories that I want to share with you guys. One of them came from New Orleans, outside of New Orleans. What's the name of this? It's the little town. We'll put it like this. It's southeast of New Orleans. Basically, there's St. Bernard Parish. Well, St. Bernard Parish is on the outskirts of New Orleans. You take the roads down through the bayous leaving out of St. Bernard Parish, and this is where this takes place. The gentleman who relayed this story to me related to me in person, face to face, and the conversation that he and I had really started talking about his life, what was going on with him. He dreamed of being a riverboat pilot, and for those of you guys who don't know what a riverboat pilot is, on the Mississippi River, there are a number of barges and ships that come in and out, and then there's these little boats barge boats that grab these ships and push them into port. Well, he wanted to do that for a living. It pays between $200,000 and $400,000. You wouldn't be amazed at how much money these guys make just to simply move boats from point A to point B, which is not like I'm saying it's an easy thing to do because you got the current of the river and all the other crap that goes on. But this gentleman really wanted to be a riverboat pilot. What people don't know is that the riverboat pilot industry, as well as the Port of New Orleans, is controlled by some very, very powerful special interests. Some of those special interests are not so good. You can read in between the lines when I say some of those special interests are not so good. Some of those special interests are just regular businessmen. Some of them are other type of businessmen. Unfortunately, he couldn't get that job. So he's going through this rough time, and he's explained to me, the self-doubt that he's having and these fears that he's experienced in his life at this point in time. And so he decides to just go out and sit on the levee and look at the Mississippi River, which I don't know if you guys have never went out and looked at the mighty Mississippi River, then man, you just have no clue how beautiful and amazing it is and how powerful that river is. So I know exactly what he's talking about because I've done it in my times of need and my times of sorrow. And so he's sitting there on the levee of the Mississippi River looking down, and the sounds of the water rushing and just life just passing by him, it puts him in a bit of a trance. And I'm pretty sure we've all had lock eyes, what I call it, where you start to get this tunnel vision, your mind is just kind of racing and you're in a whole nother world. You black out, you're not really paying attention to what's going on around you. You zone out. And so he's sitting there, he's zoned out. It's in the evening time, the sun is going down, and he's just relaxed. All his troubles and cares are melting away, and he's just in the moment. He's in the moment, focusing on what he's doing right now, which was just sitting there and just looking, and no longer worrying about how he's going to pay his light bill, how he's going to pay for his car that's up for repossession. He's just in the moment. And while he's sitting there, he gets overcome with this insane, intense feeling of fear, like something is watching him. And it breaks him out of this kind of peaceful state that he's in, and his eyes dart left and right, and he's looking for what's going on. And to the right of him, down the levee, about 100 yards away, next to a tree, he sees this creature hunched over. It's hairy, it's black, and its head is cocked to the side, and it has his hair kind of covering his face, but he can kind of see a facial features and eyes, and it's just looking at him. And the strange thing about when he was telling me the story was he kind of got up and did what the creature was doing, and it's squatted down like we would squat down to pick something up. I was going to say to take a poop, but squat down like we would squat down to pick something up, but it's kind of moving left to right, and it's just looking at him. Now, it's far enough away to where he can't really see all the eyes and the details of everything, but he knows it's out of place and it's weird. And he's sitting there on his butt, and I don't know if you ever sat on a levee, but it's like you're sitting on a big hill, right? But you're on the downside of the hill, and his instincts tell him he needs to run. And so he hops up and turns his body to the right to turn around and run. And as he's motioning to get up and run, this creature takes off, moving forward, kind of pouncing forward, his knuckles hitting the ground, bouncing up, and starts running towards him. And he sees this fluid motion of this creature move, so fluid that it freaks him out. And he turns right, shoots over the levee, down the levee, going to his car. I'm talking about hauling tail, getting to his car. Well, he gets to the car, opens the door, cranks it up, jams his foot on the gas, and pulls off. This whole time he doesn't look back until he's in the car driving off. And so finally he starts looking back as his car is pulling forward. And this thing has closed that 100-yard gap up over the levee, and it's coming down the other side towards his car as he's pulling off. And he's freaking the hell out. Like, what the hell is this thing? He drives all the way up to a police station in the small town. I can't remember the name of the town. This is where things go wrong when I don't write. But he pulls into the police station in the small towns and tells them there's a wild animal out on the levee. And the sheriff that's there says, well, could you describe it? And then he rethinks it and he says, look, I don't know. To himself, he says, look, I don't know if I should even tell these people I saw this. And he says, never mind. I think it was a hog. It was just a hog. Don't worry about it. And so he goes on about his business. And this is the strange thing about encounters with Bigfoot and the paranormal. You know, no, that's not a strange thing. This is the reoccurring theme about encounters with the paranormal. You know, people feel like they can't tell anybody what's going on, and they can't share these experiences. For all we know, the next person going out there could end up coming up missing because this creature is there. But, you know, he didn't file a report. What are you going to say? And his exact words was, hey, bro, what am I going to say? Bigfoot or the swamp thing or a skunk ape is hanging out by the Mississippi River, not too far from the city of New Orleans. And it was interesting because this guy wasn't lying. I mean, the terror on his face and the look in his eyes, he wasn't lying at all. Another story that I think you guys haven't heard, I'm going to tell you the back end of this story because I'm releasing this along with it. So one of the things that I'm doing is now I'm promoting the Dark Waters channel. As you guys have known for a long time, I've talked about the hesitation of a number of the other YouTube horror narrators and how they're hesitant to collaborate with me and how that turned me off to the whole collaboration thing very, very early in the process. And as of now, you see, I collaborate with my subscribers, Mr. X Dreams, the Vault Keeper, wow, and that's pretty much it. I just recently did something with King Spooky, but that turned out weird, and I'll tell you guys about that. So I did Jason Hawes and JV Johnson's Paranormal Reality radio show, and during that interview, I played two stories. One story you heard was King Spooky's, the YouTube narrator. You heard his voice. He was narrating a story that was told to me by a TV producer out of Hollywood about his encounter with this shadow creature. I think it was a hat man. It was a hat man encounter that he had while working as a bouncer at a bar. King Spooky records it. I add the sound to it. The sound's amazing. It plays. The agreement was that that we would do a collaboration that was on his channel. Well, when it came time for him to fulfill his side of the agreement, it was, look, you know, I'm worried about the music being copywritten, which I was like, okay, bro, you know, don't worry about it. God bless you. We won't do it. Then he said, hey, why don't you give me the voice? Just give me the raw files and I'll do it. I'm like, no, bro, I'm not doing that because my quality standards are a lot higher than everybody else's quality standards. So, nah, that's not happening. And so we finally reached the point to where I said, look, God bless you. I wish you the best of luck. You know, don't even worry about it. Because I just said, hey, I'll just air it on my channel, sign the standard documentation that I use that there won't be any copyright issues. He didn't even want to sign that. So YouTube is a business. And again, I'm starting to treat it like a business, like I would treat any other business that I'm involved in, which you guys are going to start to notice some huge and significant differences. So anyway, I say that all that to say that now I'm promoting the Dark Waters channel and direct video placement on other YouTube and horror narrators channels. So we have direct placement. So if you go into B Buster's channel, 9 times out of 10 you're going to see my commercial. If you go to Mr. Nightmare's channel, you probably won't see it because he doesn't run commercials, but any YouTube horror narrator that runs commercials, especially pre-roll commercials, you'll see our advertisement there. And so I say all that crap to say that this story is the tail end of that ad that's out there being promoted. And I kind of talked about this on Jason and JV's show about my high school friend who had a car accident, and he ended up going to Methodist Hospital. Methodist Hospital is in New Orleans East, and it was a horrible accident. I mean, a horrific accident to the point to where he almost died. He wakes up in his hospital room, and it's 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and he starts hearing these sounds coming from the bathroom, and he described it to me as the sounds of hell, like torture and pain and just this merciless sound, like someone was just multiple people were being tortured. And craziest thing about this guy is I've known him forever, and he's just not a liar. He doesn't lie about anything. And as he's laying there in the bed, he has his leg in a cast, his neck brace. He has a neck brace on. He has all these IVs and tubes hooked to him. Even he has a tube that goes down his throat to help him breathe. I don't know what the name of it is. I think it's a tracheotomy tube or whatever it is. But he has all this stuff attached to him because this is the type of condition this guy's in. And he's there, and these noises are coming out of the bathroom. And as these noises are coming out of the bathroom and he's hearing these sounds, he's completely and totally freaking out because it's like, man, what is going on? And if you could imagine, you're in a hospital bed, you're in a leg cast, so you can't get up and run. You're in a neck brace, so the most you can do is kind of swivel your eyes left to right. You can't really turn. You got IVs, tubes, all this crap in your mouth, and you hear what sounds like hell coming out of the bathroom. And as he's laying there, and he's trying to figure out what he should do, he goes through this process of elimination. Is it the shower? No, it can't be the shower. Showers don't sound that way. Is it the toilet flushing? No, it can't be the toilet. None of this stuff makes sense because nobody's in the bathroom. His family is not there. Nobody's there. It's him. He's in this dark hospital room, and he's trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And as he's looking around looking for the button that you normally press to call a nurse or call for help, the damn door cracks open. After the door cracks open, he looks, and his eyes are he's turning his head as much as he can to look and see. He sees these 3 long fingers come on the outside edge of the door. And what he described it to me was the sensation and feeling was that not only was he seeing these fingers, these 3 long fingers, and he said these fingers wrapped around the edge of the door to the point to where it was just ungodly and abnormal. And he said it felt like in his spirit, he said, man, I felt like in my spirit like something was pulling itself into that room from another world. And so finally he said, screw this shit, screw the tube, screw the neck brace, screw the knee, and he flings his body as hard as he can over to the right, grabbing for the nurse call button that's on the little counter, knocking over the water, knocking over like this pan, all kind of crap gets knocked over, and he's jamming on the button over and over and over again until a nurse comes running in the room. And it's a male nurse. And so when the nurse comes running in the room and turns on the lights, all the activity stops. Right? That was his first night in the hospital. Now, of course, this guy still got these tubes and crap in his throat, so he literally can't tell the nurse what's going on. He can't say anything. Now, the rest of that story I'm gonna share with you guys later, but because that's going to be the ongoing story of his experience for the month that he was in the hospital recovering. And so I'll share the rest of the details with you later, but that is the story that is being shared right now as an advert on YouTube. And that's a very important phase because I think one of the reasons why the Dark Waters channel has grown significantly because you guys have promoted it and shared it, but also I'm a firm believer that there needs to be more awareness to what we're doing here, because what we're doing here is special, and what we're doing here is completely different than what anybody else is doing. So I want there to be more awareness of what's going on with the Dark Waters family and the Dark Waters channel. Oh, by the way, the t-shirts are ready and they are on sale. You can get your Dark Waters t-shirt if you go to darkh201.com. Click the shop button and click the shop tab, and then you will see this banner that says on sale. Click the banner. It takes you to where you can buy your shirts. Just to talk to you guys a little bit about that, the reason why it took me so long to actually put those shirts up and put them on sale is because I had to, number one, buy the shirt, number one, wear the shirt, wash the shirt, wear it again, wash it again, wear it again, wash it again, because I wanted to know what quality you were getting. Then there was a phase that I went through where the prices were extremely too high, and the company that I'm working with, I had to ensure that the prices just weren't insane. Like, originally the prices for those shirts were like $29 when you added in shipping and handling and everything else. So I beat them down on the shipping and handling and said, hey, I need you guys to eat a bit of the cost on the shipping and handling. So you'll notice it's like $2.99 for shipping and handling, but shipping and handling is like $6.99 to $5.99. But I beat them down to $2.99. What was the other thing I was going to tell you? Oh, yeah, so I beat them down to $2.99. The other thing that I did that I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that it was a good quality shirt. So I've had mine, I've washed it, I've worn it, I played basketball in it, I went out and had crawfish in it, and that one, and my Dark Waters Radio shirt, which, I forgot to talk about that. We'll talk about that next. But I've went out and tried all of them and worn them all. And it's a good quality shirt. It's lasting. Because it's black, a little bit of the color faded after the second or third wash, but it's still clearly a black shirt, right? So go ahead and go out and get your Dark Waters t-shirt. $21.99 for male, $21.99 for female. And that doesn't include shipping, but the shipping is $2.99. And there are a few sizes that are excluded at this point in time. One of the things that we made an agreement on, and I wanted them to carry the larger sizes, but they wouldn't carry the larger sizes just because the price for the larger sizes for the product itself was a little bit higher, the shirt itself. And so they said, well, if you can get 100 t-shirts sold in a month, then we'll open the doors up, we'll bring prices down even further, we'll let you run some discount deals. And because I wanted to do buy one get one 35% off. That wasn't going to float because I know that there's couples and families that listen. I wanted to put little stuff for babies out and all the rest of the stuff, but so we got to get through this phase. So it'll be 100 shirts out there for sale. Once those 100 are sold out, then that's a wrap. And then now I'll go back to the negotiating table and try and figure out what we can do next. But once we get past the first 100 in 30 days, which I'm pretty sure we'll get past the first 100 in the first week, from there, now we really open the doors to opening up a whole bunch of other stuff that we can put out there. Dark Waters Radio. So guys, earlier I talked about kind of the attacks that came against me. I've identified who did that. I'm not even going to touch on that. You guys will find what's coming down the road interesting when it comes to that. So I wanted to facilitate a way for us to have these meaningful conversations. So for example, I have a lot of meaningful conversations with people one-on-one. When I say meaningful, I mean really long, meaningful, important conversations where I learn from them and they learn from me. I wanted to do that on a massive scale and not just on a one scale. Two reasons. Number one, I think that the public needs to hear what happens in these conversations. Now, they don't need to hear every detail, but they do need to hear these interactions because some of these interactions are so intense and so insane, it's ridiculous. But also, I needed a way of verbalizing a defense against some of the things that have happened and gone on. Right now, when you start looking at things from a business perspective, and I told you guys I'm taking this to a whole nother level now. My new goal is to have 1 million subscribers. That never was my goal. I was like, give me 20,000 subscribers and I'm good. Now my goal now is to be a preeminent force when it comes to YouTube and YouTube narrators. So when you start talking about the ability to speak out and comment on things, the ability to bring in top quality and top-notch authors and writers and researchers, the ability to actually allow you guys to tell your stories to the world in different formats. One format of what I'm doing now is a way of telling your story, but I want to put it in another format to where you can call in live and tell your story. So Dark Waters Radio is going to be live radio the time slot placement I'm working on. The format for the show is already done. I could share that with you, but I won't because I don't want anybody to steal it, because there's other guys who's doing shows and they're already stealing a lot of stuff I'm doing, so they'll just have to wait. Guests are already lined up, and I'm talking about serious guests. I'm not talking about just random people. I'm talking about the top-notch people are going to be on the show starting from the beginning. The very first episode is going to be called the Dark Waters Family Reunion, and I'm trying to make it a 3-hour episode where it's 3 hours on the radio live. Guests come in and talk. You guys have almost an hour and a half, 2 hours of open lines where you can call in. I'm positioning it for us to have an iPhone app and the Android app. And that's why now moving forward, doing things like supporting the Dark Waters channel by purchasing your t-shirt is very important, because those things, when you do that, it allows me to do these type of things. You know, I'm taking this from just the Dark Waters channel into now moving it towards being a media operation that deals with the paranormal and different facets of it, which I think is very important, and I'm excited about it. So your support is greatly needed. You guys have supported me thus far, so I don't think you guys will ever let me down. And as you know, I'm not letting you down. So Dark Waters Radio is going to be amazing. The sound for it is already done on the next Inside Baseball. I'm going to start playing some of the sounds of it. There's a paranormal news section where we'll talk about the news that happened in the paranormal news in the week. That's something I could talk about because I'm partnering with someone who's very prominent when it comes to getting paranormal news. And, you know, as much as people want to steal it, they're not going to be able to partner with this guy because he's the man. The day is airing and the time is airing. I'm angling to do it at a certain day and time, but I'll discuss that later and disclose that later. And then just some of the people I've been talking to are huge. I mean, epic level people who've been in the industry 20, 30 years and who've been constantly giving these stories and collecting information. So you guys are really, really going to enjoy Dark Waters Radio. If you guys are familiar with Monstercast Boys who've been helping us with the Bigfoot Bonanza, I'm facilitating it to where I won't be doing it every week, but I'm organizing and facilitating to where the Monstercast Boys can help out. That is requiring that they do some training because, again, when you represent me, I want you to be on your best that you can be, and these guys are pretty good. But we're getting ready to start doing some mock interviews and things so when I'm not there, that I'm pretty confident and sure that they can handle the helm of the show and carry it moving forward. It's just getting ready to be insane and crazy. When I say insane and crazy. So, in fact, the Dark Waters Radio's YouTube channel is already up, so head on over there and subscribe to Dark Waters Radio YouTube channel. That way, once the shows come on YouTube, you'll get the notification. Now, again, it's going to be a live radio show, and it will be sent over to YouTube for some of you guys who miss it. You'll be able to pick it up on YouTube. And when I'm talking about guests, I'm talking about guests. I mean, you guys know the type of people I've been interviewed by. So imagine those people on a flip-in being interviewed by me. And you know, certain people, I have some great chemistry with certain people. So, but when I'm on their shows, it's kind of like, you know, they kind of guide and shift which way it goes. And it's a great thing. It turned out to be a great interview. But imagine them on a show with me where I just let it run wild. And it goes where it goes. It's just like two guys sitting on the porch talking. And because I don't care about the format being rigid, because there's not going to be much advertising. It's not going to be all that. So it's not as rigid of a format. It's like, let's talk. You know, let's ask each other questions. Let's go back and forth. You tell me your scary story, I'll tell you my scary story. Let's boom, 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 bada bing, bada boom. It's going to be great. I mean, it really is going to be great. So Dark Waters Radio, it's on YouTube now. Go over, subscribe, and get prepared for it because it's coming down the pipeline. I know I had a lot more stuff to talk about. I really did. And I can't freaking remember the rest of it. There were two stories I wanted to tell you. I told you one about the guy on the levee, and I told you about the advertisement. You know, in the advertisement, some people are going to get their panties in a bunch about me advertising, but just so you guys know, from my perspective, I'm literally paying to have access to their subscribers. So if you see somebody out there getting their panties in a bunch, oh, Dark Waters is advertising on top of my stories. and you want to say something, say, hey, my understanding that you're getting paid, right? Is he paying you? Is it, because it's not like I can advertise for free, guys. So if somebody gets their panties in a bunch, then just remember that they're getting paid for me to have access to their subscribers. And that's one of the weaknesses in YouTube's system when it comes to being in the same genre as someone else. That's how the system's set up. It's not cheating. It's not doing anything wrong. It's just being smart business. And again, we're evolving from just the YouTube channel kind of just willy-nilly, and I've been able to accomplish a lot with your support, kind of being willy-nilly, just doing it. And now we're moving into a different phase where it's a lot more strategic. I was forced to put some protections around myself, and I was forced to bring some people in to deal with some things. I've had, and some of the things that you guys will know about that's coming down the pipeline, like I've had a TV show offer for here in New Orleans that we're working through, movie script offers, multiple based on these stories. It's just a lot of stuff that we're working our way through, and those things require teams of people. Now we're moving towards where we have Facebook teams, Twitter teams, Instagram teams. These things are all coming into fruition now, just because if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go ahead and do it 100%, and 100% the right way. And I think you guys will appreciate that. I don't take corners or cut corners when I give you my product. So from the business standpoint, I shouldn't cut corners or not take it as seriously when it comes to dealing with the business of the Dark Waters channel. So I think I'm done, guys. I'm going to sit here and sip my iced coffee. It's Sunday, July 3rd, right before the 4th of July. And to all you guys out there, I want you to have a happy Independence Day. And enjoy yourself, eat some good barbecue, hang out with your family and friends, enjoy family and friends, because at the end of the day, they are all we have. To my people who I've spoken to recently, like Robbie, keep your spirit up, Robbie. I'm welcoming you to the team, and I appreciate you. And to the Dark Waters family, I appreciate each and every one of you for your support and your love and your caring and your concern about me when I go silent. But as you guys know, anytime I go dark and go silent, that means there's something great coming. I will never go dark and go silent and then give you some BS, because that's just not how I roll. With that being said, this is Dark Waters signing out. This is like 40 minutes of talking, and I'm not editing this. I'm just going to add sound. So I'll talk to you guys later. Oh, by the way, the next video will be coming out on Wednesday no later than Thursday. It may be me talking like this and just adding the stories in. It may not be the hardcore scripted, just so I can get something out. I'm experimenting with that, so I hope you guys like it, and talk to you soon.